It's fascinating how this shift unfolds the moment music you truly awaken. Not the kind where you stir from a night's rest in the morning light. No, I'm talking about a profound awakening to the essence of existence, to the elaborate charade unfolding everywhere, to the realization that what folks treat as rock solid and grave is really more akin to a theatrical production where the cast has lost track of their scripts. Once this dawns on you, an odd sensation sets in. Isolation creeps up, not merely the solitude of empty rooms, although that can tag along, but a profound disconnection that slices to the core. Suddenly you're positioned in a realm apart from nearly all those nearby. This isolation, this rift, might mimic a fracture, like some vital part of you is splintered beyond repair. Yet here's a key insight to grasp from the outset. That fracture, music, isn't the catastrophe you imagine. The solitude and sense of ruin among those spiritually awakened don't stem from any personal flaw. Far from it, they arise because everything has aligned spectacularly well. The outer layer has fractured, the chrysalis has burst. Emerging from it is something tender, exposed, music, and wholly incompatible with slipping back into the former confines. The majority dwell in what could be termed a shared delusion. They've tacitly consented to embrace particular narratives about the world without ever deliberating on it. They hold that the isolated ego, that inner I they tote about, defines their true essence. They assume prosperity involves music, gathering possessions, acclaim, prestige, accomplishments. They view existence as a puzzle demanding solutions, not an enigma to embrace. This collective haze offers its own brand of ease. Communication flows smoothly since all share the dialect. At a social gathering, when queried about your occupation, you can offer your persona, your facade, and instant recognition follows. Executive, educator, creator, parent, these tags slot perfectly into societal compartments. But then a turning point arrives, maybe through turmoil, or a flash of insight, or perhaps from probing too persistently and rejecting simplistic replies. Regardless of the catalyst, enlightenment strikes. In that clarity, you perceive the facade, the ruler's nakedness. You recognize these earnest endeavors, this frantic pursuit, this worry over identity and progress as a grand spectacle we've overinvested in gravity. Once glimpsed, it lingers indelibly. It's reminiscent of demystifying a sleight of hand after the secret's revealed. The performer still extracts the creature from the topper, yet the enchantment transforms. You discern the ploy, music, you uncover the mirage, and thus the isolation takes root. For now, at that same event when pressed on your pursuits, the inquiry itself reveals the pretense. Respond with raw truth. I'm the cosmos manifesting here and now, briefly donning human attire, and they'll retreat cautiously, seeking safer chatter. Thus, you adapt, mastering the idiom of the shared delusion despite your disbelief. You turn trilingual in spirit, and it's draining. Music. You're forever bridging realms, one of surfaces, personas, and diversions, the other, the vista you've touched where it all unfolds as a lighthearted ballet, a swirl of vitality that doesn't demand undue solemnity. Yet, a more profound solitude lingers. In awakening, you grasp your inseparability from the cosmos. You're no isolated watcher confined in flesh, gazing at an alien expanse. Rather, you're the cosmos peering through orbs deemed your own. Your form is the entirety expressing itself presently, much as a swell embodies the sea's motion. Poetic, right? It is, but consider the twist. Upon embracing non-separation, you're struck by how fervently others cling to their isolation. Music, force won't dislodge their convictions. You can't debate anyone into enlightenment, so you're left in this peculiar stance. Beneath the surface divisions, all share the identical essence, music, the singular, boundless awareness masquerading as distinct souls. But they remain blind to it. They sincerely regard themselves as lone egos vying for fleeting joys, music, in an uncaring void. They don shields forged from triumphs and endorsements, music. You, having pierced the veil, can no longer don such garb. It rings hollow, absurd, like an adult squeezing into toddler attire. Thus, you remain vulnerable, and music, the surroundings pierce keenly. This is the fracture, not true damage, but liberation from the husk that formerly shielded you anticipated it. The barrier of the isolated self, music, the barrier of assuming you stop at your skin's edge, the barrier of measuring your value by others' opinions of you. Stripped of that barrier, you're exposed, tender, receptive. You sense others' pain not as an external event befalling them, but as an occurrence within the vast awareness that defines you. When cruelty strikes from someone, you don't merely watch it from afar in safety. You experience the hurt fueling their outburst. You perceive the hurt child lurking behind the furious grown-up. You recognize the dread masked by their haughtiness. That's why profound spiritual guides frequently sought solitude in mountains, caves, or arid wastelands. Not out of disdain for people, but because the overwhelming depth of experiencing all existence demanded moments of withdrawal. They had to reconnect with the quiet, the origin, the realm where shapes and forms merge back into the boundless. But hear me plainly. This isolation and this fragility aren't flaws to repair. They're inevitable outcomes of perceiving truth in a society that chooses slumber. Consider it like this. Picture yourself in a cinema, viewing a film. Those nearby are utterly immersed in the plot. They weep at the protagonist's trials, roar in triumph as the antagonist falls. Then, you glance back and spot the projector in the rear, the beam of light projecting scenes, the entire apparatus at work. You realize it's merely patterns of brightness and darkness flickering on a wall. Returning your gaze to the screen, you might still savor the show, yet you're conscious it's fiction. And as the crowd weeps like it's the gravest truth imaginable, you sense a separation. Not from indifference or numbness, but from grasping the wider reality. The fragility arises because you can no longer connect to existence through outdated lenses. The thrills that captivate the crowd no longer stir you. The shiny vehicle, the career leap, the societal rank, it all rings empty. Not due to any defect in them, but because you discern their essence, fleeting manifestations in life's current, crests surging and receding in the sea. And when those near you anchor their whole sense of self to such transient elements, you can't share their fervor. You can't feign that these hold eternal truth. Thus, you feel detached from the group, barred from diving into the shared illusion with full abandon. Yet, grasp this essential point. This fragility is truly an opening up. You've shed no vital part. You've pierced through an illusion. Indeed, it stings. Indeed, it's isolating. But it's the dawn of genuine liberation. For once you recognize the contest as mere play, you can approach it afresh. You can immerse in life with vigor, zeal, ingenuity, music, yet minus the frantic attachment, minus the dread that defeat spells total ruin. The majority live in fear. They fear demise, defeat, rejection, insignificance. This dread propels them to erect defenses, to strive mercilessly, to grasp at any fragments of safety. They're akin to swimmers in peril, flailing wildly, clutching at whatever or whoever might save them, dragging others under in desperation. But you've caught sight of an alternative. You've understood you can't truly sink, for you were never apart from the depths to begin with. You embody the sea, masquerading as a swell, and swells inherently crest and subside. This isn't misfortune, it's simply the rhythm of swells. When this truth sinks deep into your core, the fear's hold weakens. Music. Perhaps not entirely. You're still mortal, still prone to anxiety and ache, but now there's breathing room encircling it, realizing that anxieties and hurts are woven into the spectacle, into the rhythm. You dwell in the threshold, no longer wholly ensnared by the common delusion, yet not solidly rooted in enlightenment. You're in the void, and the void feels uneasy. How do you navigate it? How do you handle this isolation and fragility? Music. Start by recognizing you're not solitary in your solitude. Across ages, the music visionaries, the wise souls, the enlightened have tread this trail. The Buddha meditated beneath a Bodhi tree in seclusion. Jesus ventured into the desert alone. Lao Tzu vanished into the peaks in solitude. This lone journey isn't defeat. It's evidence you're treading the trail of the enlightened. Next, cultivate ease amid the unease. The isolation isn't for curing or fleeing. It's for embracing completely, for within it, you uncover the remarkable. You uncover that solitude is an illusion. Reflect on this. In an empty space by yourself, are you truly isolated? You're enveloped by the atmosphere you inhale, bound to it profoundly. Why, with each inhalation, your form hosts trillions of cells collaborating seamlessly. Your consciousness streams with ideas and perceptions emerging from the cosmos at large. Precisely where does the divide exist? That isolation you're experiencing marks the final struggle of the ego, the isolated identity. Music, acknowledging its fading hold. The ego senses solitude because it assumes isolation. Yet you transcend the ego. You embody the awareness that observes the ego. You represent the vast consciousness where the ego emerges, alongside isolation and every other sensation. As you settle into that awareness, the isolation may not vanish entirely, yet it transforms in nature. Music. It grows lighter, less dense. It resembles clouds drifting across the expanse of your essence. Similarly, the sense of fracture can shift in perspective. You are cracked wide open, not shattered apart. Rumi observed, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. Your fractures create your gateway. Via the fissures in your ego's defenses, existence can circulate more fluidly. Absent those openings, you'd stay confined in the confines of the isolated self, maybe secure, yet stifled." Now, let me share another insight. The isolation and fractures of the spiritually aware can turn into a snare if you're not vigilant. For the ego is cunning. It might seize your enlightenment and reshape it into fresh division. You could start sensing uniqueness, superiority. Music. You might gaze upon the unaware crowds with disdain instead of empathy. You could display your isolation as a mark of distinction, evidence of your greater development, sharper insight, deeper spirituality compared to those oblivious souls. This is the spiritual ego, merely the familiar ego donning fresh music attire. The enlightened individual doesn't condescend to the slumbering. The genuinely enlightened recognizes no slumberers or enlightened ones. There's solely consciousness, pure awareness enacting every part, portraying the dormant and the alert, the bewildered and the lucid. It's the identical essence in varied guises. Upon grasping this, the isolation evolves once more, for you now perceive that even in your seeming detachment, you connect with all who appear detached from you. Your isolation mirrors theirs. Your fractures echo theirs, even if they haven't acknowledged it. And here's the remarkable aspect. Once you embrace this isolation and fracture wholly, cease attempting to mend or evade it, permit yourself to encounter it utterly without opposition, a shift occurs. The discomfort may not fade, but it turns manageable, beyond mere endurance. It attains a near poetic depth in its fervor, for it's genuine, it's true to life, its vitality experiencing itself profoundly. So many strive relentlessly to evade isolation, to deny fractures. They cram their days with clamor, diversions, frantic bonds that fall short of fulfillment. They erect complex frameworks of faith and success to mask the fundamental solitude inherent in humanity. But you've halted the flight. You've permitted yourself to confront what others desperately shun. And within that confrontation, in that openness to embrace the present reality, you uncover an odd serenity. This serenity isn't the eradication of isolation. It's the calm of ceasing to resist what exists. It's the tranquility of permitting existence to unfold as it does, music encompassing the challenging elements. This is the essence of the spiritual journey's demand, not to evolve into some euphoric entity hovering beyond human struggles, but to inhabit humanity completely, fully engaged with the full spectrum of experiences, from rapture to torment and all that lies between. The spiritually aware individual feels isolated, music, because they perceive truths hidden from most. They're fractured as they have escaped the enclosure others still regard as their dwelling. Yet this isolation and fracture aren't the conclusion. They signal the start, the onset of an existence embraced genuinely, free from facade, without the urgent drive to conform or gain approval from a world yet slumbering. Gradually, with patience, you start encountering fellow travelers on this journey, those bearing identical isolation, the same fractures. And upon connecting, a swift mutual understanding arises. Music. No need for clarification, no requirement to interpret. You converse from the core, and they grasp it. Music. Yet even should you traverse this path utterly solo in human terms, music, you're not truly alone. You journey alongside all the profound spirits who've preceded you. Beyond that, you move with the entirety of creation, for you're inseparable from it. Your isolation is the cosmos expressing solitude via you. Your fracture is the cosmos splitting itself to embrace fresh horizons. So refrain from resenting your isolation. Avoid grieving your fractures. These indicate you're on the journey. Indicators that you're stirring from slumber. Clues that you're emerging as authentic amid a crowd still caught in their performances. The road to enlightenment isn't straightforward. It wasn't designed to be. Yet, it's profoundly rewarding. Far beyond what words can capture. For what you acquire isn't the typical joy, nor ease or safety or validation from others. What you secure is truth in its raw form. Existence unmasked, free from the twists of self-importance and dread. You've ceased the frantic pace. You've allowed yourself to shatter. You've embraced the isolation. Music. Through this, you've initiated the initial genuine strides into liberation. Thus, if solitude envelops you this evening, if you sense yourself fractured, music, and question whether rousing yourself was a grave error, allow me to reaffirm a vital truth. You've committed no error. You've opted for the sole decision of true value. You've selected genuineness over deception, music, honesty over ease, sincerity over acceptance. Indeed, it stings. Absolutely, it's isolating. Certainly you feel shattered, yet you're vibrant, truly vibrant, and that's precisely why you're here. Not to drift through a soothing fantasy, but to experience every facet, to witness every layer, to embody the entirety. You represent the cosmos, coming to awareness of its own essence. And at times, that awareness brings discomfort. The dreamer resists abandoning the reverie. But you've departed. You've unveiled your gaze, and full return to slumber is impossible now. So embrace the solitude if it calls, feel the fragments if that's your reality. But recognize that within your isolation and fractures, you're more complete, more genuine, more vital than ever before. This marks the dual-edged nature of spiritual emergence. You surrender your soothing deceptions, but you claim something vastly superior. You claim your essence, your authentic core, the essence present prior to your arrival and enduring beyond your departure. Greetings on this trail, greetings in the solitude, greetings amid the shards. Welcome back to your true abode.